Hi there, my name is Samhita and I'm with Union. I'm going to talk about the SageMaker agent. And before I dive into an example, I kind of want to set the context. So, SageMaker agent features a deployment agent that enables you to deploy models, create and trigger inference endpoints. You can also delete a SageMaker deployment using this agent. And SageMaker agent is designed for serving purposes only and cannot be used for training or hyperparameter tuning. We would need to build separate agents to handle those tasks. Now that we know what a SageMaker agent is, let's look into the why. So why do we need a SageMaker agent? It is useful to build end-to-end model training and deployment pipelines within Union. From data processing to serving a model, you can now have a centralized pipeline on Union to handle all your tasks. And you can also automate the manual steps that you would otherwise have to run when deploying the model manually on SageMaker. No more Docker files and building and pushing the images manually. And the S3 interactions can also be handled with Union. Now I'll walk you through deploying a segment anything model, commonly referred to as SAM, using SageMaker and Fast API. So this particular flight workflow deployment pipeline fine-tunes the model, generates batch predictions, waits for the user approval, compresses the model, and then deploys it on SageMaker. So the fine-tuning step involves fine-tuning SAM on a breast cancer toy dataset. All the dependencies are captured in an image spec and the image gets built under the hood. The fine-tuned model, which is this, is then sent a batch of inputs to check if the model's working as expected. So here's the batch predictions code. And this returns a flight directory consisting of the segmented images. And if everything checks out, user approves the deployment. Here's the approval node. The pipeline then compresses the model because SageMaker expects the model to be in tar.gz format and then sends it for deployment. Now, the model need not be manually uploaded to S3 as Flight takes care of that. And you just need to send the model path returned by the compressed model task. So this model path is being sent to this particular workflow directly. And the image can also be defined as an image spec, which gets built automatically by the agent and pushed to the specified registry. And this image should contain the inference code, necessary libraries, and an entry point for model serving. So here's the model serving script, the entry point, and here's the Fast API code that defines the ping and the invocations endpoints. Now let me go back to the deployment file. So the create SageMaker deployment is a function that returns a workflow, a flight workflow, and it triggers 3 tasks under the hood: to deploy the model, to create an endpoint config, and to create an endpoint. And you should be sending the model configuration, the endpoint config configuration, and the endpoint configuration to this particular function. And after the deployment is complete, you can invoke the endpoint using the SageMaker invoke endpoint task that comes with this plugin. So since this is an asynchronous inference, I am sending the S3 location as an input, and the output is also an S3 location. And there's also this Boto task that is available in this plugin that you can use to trigger any Boto API. And now let me go to the UI. Here it is. So this is a successful execution of the workflow. And here's the SageMaker workflow that triggers 3 tasks to create a model, endpoint config, and an endpoint. Let me go to the SageMaker dashboard. So here's the endpoint. Now you should be able to trigger this endpoint and get the predictions. And yes, that's all I have. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you now have an idea of how Union lets you build end-to-end pipelines and how you can deploy your models on SageMaker with the agent. Thanks again.